stray cat came the night Emily Carter stopped believing in signs. Rain dripped from her coat as she sat on the cold steps of her San Francisco apartment, another rejection email glowing dimly on her cracked phone screen. The startup had folded. The man she thought would stay, gone. All that was left was silence, until the soft patter of paws broke through it. A thin, wet creature with emerald eyes and a tangled coat stepped into the glow of the street lamp. Emily blinked. "A cat? Now?" she whispered. The animal stared at her, unblinking. Then, without warning, it sat. Right there, on her doormat, as if it belonged. Emily let out a breath. "Well, congratulations. You picked the most pathetic porch in town." She opened the door. The cat didn't move. That night she gave it a name, Pixel. Something about those sharp green eyes reminded her of lines of code. Wild, elegant, misunderstood. Pixel never left after that. He came every night, always around the same time. Never meowed, never clawed, just sat, watching. There was something strange about it, like the cat knew when she had cried, when she had not eaten, when she needed someone, anyone. "I swear," Emily said one night, running a hand through Pixel's damp fur, "you are either an angel or a glitch in the system." He blinked. That was the moment Emily Carter began to shift, just slightly, like code refactoring itself. The depression hadn't lifted, not fully, but something stirred. And then, one rainy evening, Pixel did not wait. He bolted. Down the street, past the corner bodega, into a narrow alley Emily had never noticed. "Pixel!" she shouted, but he was already gone, and she had no choice but to follow. The city always hummed, even at night. But this alley, this forgotten crease between buildings, was silent. Emily's shoes splashed through shallow puddles as she turned the corner. The streetlights did not reach here. A dim glow from an old neon sign, half the letters missing, buzzed above her like a warning. "Pixel?" Her voice echoed strangely. No answer. Only dripping water and the distant sound of traffic. She hesitated. Her instincts told her to turn back. This was not her world. This world of shadows and rusted crates. But Pixel was here, somewhere. She stepped forward. Trash bins leaned like drunks against brick walls. The air smelled like damp cardboard and rust. She noticed a faint trail, muddy paw prints leading deeper in. "Okay, genius," she muttered, following a stray cat into an alley because, why not? She crouched beside a pile of crates stacked awkwardly against the wall where the paw prints stopped. Behind them was something, a metallic glint barely visible in the flickering light. Emily brushed aside the crates. They gave with surprising ease. And then she saw it, a small dust-covered metal box, not modern, industrial, like something forgotten after a war. She hesitated before reaching out. Her fingers trembled. With effort, she pried it open. Inside was a cold wallet, the kind used to store cryptocurrency. Old, worn, but intact. Her breath caught. What is this?" Pixel reappeared silently behind her, curling his tail around her leg. His eyes locked with hers, as if he was saying, "You were meant to find this." Emily stared at the wallet again, heart pounding. She did not yet know it, but that box held millions in Ethereum, untouched since the blockchain was young. But what shocked her more was the note tucked underneath, scrawled in faded ink. "If you found this, you are not safe yet." Emily stood frozen, the cold wallet in one hand, the note in the other. "If you found this, you are not safe yet." The words buzzed in her mind like a broken wire. "What does that mean?" she whispered aloud, looking down at Pixel. But Pixel offered no answers. He simply sat, calm, knowing, almost waiting. Emily took the wallet and the note, shoved them into her backpack, and stood. A sudden breeze whooshed through the alley, stirring old newspapers and something deeper, something buried beneath her fear. Back in her apartment, the rain returned, painting the windows in streaks. She sat at her cluttered desk, the glow of her computer screen casting sharp shadows across the room. Emily was not a hacker, but she was close. Years of coding, debugging, and building had sharpened her instincts. She connected the wallet to a cold reader and began decrypting its contents. Ethereum, Lots of it. She blinked, rubbed her eyes. The numbers glared back. It was real. Who leaves something like this out there? She whispered, heart racing. And why me? She looked back at the note. The handwriting, uneven, hurried, like someone was trying to warn or confess. As she dug deeper, a strange pattern began to emerge in the wallet's metadata. Transactions tied to pseudonyms she recognized from crypto blogs. She remembered being linked to someone, an early Ethereum developer who went offline years ago. Rumored dead. Some said he vanished after a betrayal. Others whispered about theft, fake identities, unfinished code. Emily felt a chill crawl across her skin. What if this wallet was never meant to be found? Pixel leapt onto the desk, placing one paw on the screen. His eyes locked with hers. And in that stillness, Emily knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere in the blockchain, someone was still watching. The morning came without sleep. Emily stared at the ceiling, the sound of traffic muffled behind closed windows. Pixel slept at her feet, curled into a perfect spiral, his ears flicking occasionally, like he too was haunted by codes and whispers. She sat up suddenly. The wallet, the names, the whispers online. Something about it all gnawed at her. She opened her laptop again and searched deeper into the blockchain forums, places she had not visited in years. Hidden threads, ghost accounts, anonymous users trading secrets like digital currency. One name kept reappearing, Dante Gray, a coder from the early days of Ethereum, a recluse, brilliant, paranoid. He wrote extensively about privacy coins, decentralized justice, and systems too corrupt to be saved from the inside. Then he disappeared. No one knew if he was dead, hiding, or erased, but the transaction history of the wallet matched the timeline of his last known movements. Emily scrolled further. A comment buried in an archived forum post stopped her. Dante always said if he vanished, he'd leave his legacy for someone who needed it more than he ever did. Not someone smart, someone kind. Her chest tightened. Could this be real? Suddenly, a loud knock on the door broke the silence. 3 sharp raps. Emily flinched. Pixel's ears perked up. He jumped down from the bed, but instead of running to the door, he hid under it. Knock, knock, knock. She stood, her breath shallow. Through the peephole, she saw no one, just the empty hallway. But taped to her door was another note in the same handwriting. Stop digging. Watch your back. Emily stepped back slowly. This was no longer about Ethereum. Someone knew she had the wallet, and they were closer than she thought. The note shook in her fingers. Stop digging. Watch your back. The letters were pressed hard, as if carved in desperation. Emily closed the door, double-locked it, and leaned against it, her breath catching. The apartment that once felt like a cage now felt like a trap. Pixel paced the floor with silent urgency, tail flicking. He stared at her, then at the door. She could almost hear him asking, "What now?" "I do not know," she whispered. "But I cannot stop now, can I?" Emily turned to her whiteboard, the one she had not touched since losing her job. Equations from a forgotten project still clung to its corners. She wiped it clean and began writing names, dates, transactions, connecting them like a nervous system. Everything pointed back to Dante Gray, but his name, it echoed somewhere deeper. She searched through her old code archives, digging through the skeletons of past projects. Then she found it, an old Ethereum security audit from years ago. One of her first freelance gigs. She had written a tiny patch, barely a contribution, but the reviewer's comment came back to her now. "Clean work. Your mind reads like air." DG. Her throat tightened. Dante Gray had read her code. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Could he have chosen her? And if so, was this fate or a trap? Pixel jumped onto her desk again. This time he knocked over a mug filled with pens. One rolled under her bookshelf. When she bent to retrieve it, she noticed a thin gap in the floorboards, one she had never seen. Something metallic reflected from within. She pulled it loose. A USB drive, unmarked. Emily stared at it. "Is this yours, Pixel?" she said softly. He blinked. Outside, the streetlights flickered. Inside, her world was no longer hers alone. The unmarked USB sat on her palm like a loaded question. Emily stared at it, her breath shallow, her mind racing. She knew better than to plug random drives into her system. It was rule number 1 in cybersecurity. But Pixel nudged her elbow gently. "All right," she whispered. "Let us see what you're hiding." She disconnected her personal network, activated her air-gapped laptop, and took a deep breath. Click. The drive came alive. A single folder blinked on screen. Legacy Protocol DG. She clicked it open. Lines of encrypted code spilled out like a waterfall, but at the bottom was a short video file, timestamped 6 years ago. She clicked play. A grainy figure appeared. Male, late 30s, thin frame, thick glasses, and a voice like cracked porcelain. "My name is Dante Gray, and if you are watching this, then you found it. The wallet, my mistake, or my redemption." Emily leaned in. "I was betrayed. By friends, by the system we built. Ethereum was supposed to be freedom, not control. So I locked my share away. Someone else tried to claim it. They failed." He paused, eyes flickering with pain. "I chose to leave it for someone who understands the value of integrity. If you are that person, then finish what I could not." The screen glitched. For a second, his face distorted, like a ghost trying to speak through static. "There is more," he added, "but they are watching. You will need the cipher." Pixel jumped off the desk just then, pawing at a faded book on Emily's shelf. "Cryptography for the Curious." She turned to it, heart pounding. Inside was a folded sheet of paper, untouched for years, written in code. Outside, a car idled for too long. A shadow passed across the window. Someone else was looking for the wallet too, and now they knew she was close. Emily sat motionless, the cipher sheet spread across her desk, her fingers barely touching it. The symbols were familiar, too familiar. They were not just encryption patterns. They were lines she had once written in a personal side project, a forgotten mental game during her early coding days. It was his way of saying, "I saw you." Pixel sat beside her, quiet, ears alert. Emily began decoding the message slowly. It pointed to a private key, one hidden inside an obscure Ethereum smart contract, camouflaged inside a line of failed code. She whispered, "This is not just a wallet, it is a message chain, a warning." Just then, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it, let it ring, then silenced it. Seconds later, a message appeared. "We need to talk. It's me, Josh." Her stomach twisted. Josh. The colleague turned lover who had vanished with a startup exit in a hollow goodbye. The one who said she took things too personally. The one she had not seen in over a year. She ignored it. Another message came. "You are in something dangerous, Emily. Please call me." She closed her eyes. Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. Pixel climbed onto her lap, curling into a ball, grounding her again. She whispered into the stillness, "How does he know?" Her laptop chimed, an alert from the blockchain tracker she had been running. Someone had just pinged the wallet address, a digital footprint left by someone trying to access it. Emily stood quickly. "This is bigger than I thought," she said. Pixel jumped down and walked toward the window. He stared out quietly. In the glass, Emily caught her own reflection. But behind it, a figure moved across the street, watching, still, patient. Not everything hiding in the dark was coded. Some threats were human. Emily paced her apartment, the blinds drawn, every sound amplified. The message from Josh replayed in her mind like a skipped record. "You are in something dangerous, Emily. Please call me." Why now? After silence, after betrayal, after walking out without answers? Pixel stood by the door, stiff, alert. His tail twitched, a silent warning. Then, a knock. Software, too soft. Emily froze. No one ever knocked that gently in San Francisco. She peered through the peephole. Josh. Same scruffy jawline, same tired eyes. But something in his expression had changed. Not the fake charm he used to wear, but urgency, regret, maybe even fear. She opened the door an inch, chain still on. "What do you want?" she asked, voice low. I need to talk, he said. Please, just 5 minutes. Pixel hissed from the corner. Emily looked between the cat and the man she once trusted. Then she let him in. Barely. Josh scanned the room, noting the USB drive, the open code on her screen. His voice dropped. They know you have the wallet. She crossed her arms. Who is they, Josh? He hesitated. The people who pushed Dante out. The ones who want that Ethereum. They think you're just another techie who got lucky, but they are watching you now, and they do not forgive. Emily's jaw tightened. Why do you care? Josh exhaled. Because I was one of them, until I realized too late what they were capable of. He handed her a paper, a blueprint of the smart contract hidden in Dante's code. There is more. Something Dante buried even deeper. Not just Ethereum, a protocol, a weapon, and you're sitting on it. Emily's pulse quickened. Pixel leapt onto the couch and stared directly at Josh, as if seeing through him. Emily's voice was a whisper. What did you do, Josh? He looked away, and then her laptop blinked. Access attempt detected. Wallet node compromised. The screen flashed red. Access attempt detected. Wallet node compromised. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She dove toward the keyboard, hands flying over the keys like instinct. No panic, no hesitation, just code. Someone's in, she said sharply. They are trying to inject a contract overwrite. If they succeed, they get everything, Josh finished, and you are blamed. Pixel darted under the desk, watching intently. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, reflecting the lines of code dancing across the screen. Emily spoke without turning. This was never just about Ethereum, was it? Josh hesitated. Number it is about control. Dante created something, a self-correcting protocol. It rewrites corrupted chains. If someone controls it, they can manipulate networks, governments, even elections. Her fingers paused. You helped them. I thought I was building something pure, he said, until people started disappearing. Emily's jaw clenched. And now I am their target. You are the loose end, he whispered. Emily stood suddenly, the chair skidding back. Then they picked the wrong woman. Pixel leapt onto her desk, tapping the screen with his paw, the line of code blinking red. She smiled faintly. I see it, she said. They left a fingerprint. With sharp precision, Emily wrote a countermeasure, a digital trap, cloaked in clean code, waiting to snap. A false signature, a mirror wallet. Josh watched, stunned. You are better than I remember. She looked at him, tired but fierce. That is because I stopped needing permission to be. The red alert vanished. Her trap was set. Pixel let out a quiet, approving purr. But before she could breathe again, her building's power cut out. Darkness swallowed the room. Outside, an engine roared and doors slammed. They were no longer just watching. They were here. Darkness. Emily held her breath, heart hammering like a war drum. The hum of the city vanished. Only the distant roar of an engine remained. And then, footsteps. Grab your bag, she whispered to Josh, already shoving the cold wallet, the USB, and the ciphered papers into her satchel. Pixel meowed once, sharp, urgent, then darted to the corner behind the bookshelf. Emily followed his eyes. A maintenance panel. Old, unused. She pulled it open, revealing a narrow crawl space. Go, she told Josh. Now. He hesitated. What about you? I am not the one they are after anymore, she said, shoving the blueprint into his hands. You helped build this mess. Time to help fix it. The pixel disappeared inside first, tail flicking like a guide in the dark. Emily followed, the wall sealing behind her just as the door to her apartment burst open. Shouts, boots, then silence. In the pitch black, crawling through dust and metal, Emily's mind raced. Why me? Why now? But another voice whispered louder. Because you were never broken, just buried. They emerged into a forgotten sub-basement of the building. Ancient brick, rusted pipes, a single emergency bulb flickering above. Josh wiped grime from his hands. Where do we go now? Emily pulled out her phone, powered it with an emergency battery, and opened Dante's cipher again. Beneath the surface message, new coordinates blinked. Sausalito, a lighthouse. She smiled faintly. Dante left more than warnings, she said. He left a roadmap. Pixel curled beside her, purring low, a steady reminder of quiet bravery. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, but Emily no longer flinched. She was no longer hiding. She was following the path, not to escape, but to finish what Dante started. The road to Sausalito twisted like a memory, familiar and distant. Emily sat in the back of a rideshare van, hoodie drawn, Pixel tucked in a canvas carrier at her feet. The driver said nothing. Neither did she. Her fingers tightened around the slip of paper. Dante's final coordinates. As the hills gave way to the ocean, fog rolled in thick and slow, curling around the coastline like a secret. And then it appeared. The lighthouse. Old, weather-worn, long since abandoned, but standing proud at the cliff's edge, defiant. Emily stepped out. The wind slapped her cheeks like truth. She climbed the creaking stairs, every footstep echoing like a drumbeat in her chest. Pixel padded beside her, silent as always, tail brushing the wall. Inside, at the top, was a rusted generator and an old desk covered in dust and code-stained blueprints. But in the center, a console, solar-powered, still functional, still blinking. A message waited. She pressed play. Dante's voice, softer this time, older, worn by regret. If you are here, then it means I was right to believe in the pattern. Not the math, the human pattern, grief, resilience, reinvention. He paused. The protocol is inside this terminal. It cleanses corrupted chains, not just data, but decisions. It rewrites systems that forgot why they were built in the first place. It is not perfect. Neither was I, but it needs a heart to run it, not just code. A soul. Emily's throat tightened. Josh leaned over the blueprints. This is revolutionary. She looked out the lighthouse window, eyes scanning the sea. Pixel jumped onto the console, paw pressing against the activation key. Emily stared at it. This was not about claiming Ethereum anymore. It was about rewriting what power meant, and tomorrow the world would see her code, not in numbers, but in legacy. Morning broke over Sausalito like a quiet revolution. Emily stood alone at the top of the lighthouse, the ocean below pulling at the cliffs like it wanted to whisper its own secrets. The wind tangled her hair, but her hands were steady now, not trembling like they once did. The console blinked softly. Activate protocol? YN. Josh stood behind her, still rubbing his eyes from a restless night. You do not have to do this, he said. You could transfer the funds, start over, disappear. Emily turned slowly, eyes calm. I am not running anymore. He nodded, understanding for once that this was not just about money. It never had been. Pixel sat on the windowsill, looking out at the wide, watching world. He did not meow. He did not move. He simply bore witness. Emily inserted the cold wallet, then the USB. The system recognized both instantly. The protocol came alive, lines of code cascading across the screen like a final symphony. She began typing, rewriting the access rights, embedding open-source protection layers, linking the new network to charities, women in tech initiatives, and a decentralized rescue fund for animals. She named it the Pixel Foundation. Josh read over her shoulder. You are giving it away? Emily smiled gently. Dante left power in the wrong hands once. I will not repeat his mistake. She hit enter. The screen flashed. Protocol distributed. Nodes confirmed. Immutable. Irreversible. Outside, the clouds parted. Somewhere across the globe, systems would begin correcting themselves. Anonymous women would receive scholarships. Small shelters would suddenly find their donations doubled. A new chain would quietly ripple through the blockchain, one rooted not in greed, but in trust. Pixel jumped onto her lap. You brought me back to life, she whispered to him. Ethereum did not save her. Courage did, and a cat with muddy paws, who saw her long before she ever saw herself. 1 week later, the world began to shift, but not with noise. There were no headlines, no breaking news ticker, no dramatic courtroom unveilings, just quiet waves, slow, intentional, unstoppable. In a small town in Michigan, a single mother in a shelter received an anonymous crypto grant to finish her computer science degree. In Nairobi, an animal rescue posted a video thanking someone out there for their unexpected life-saving donation. In a co-working space in Vietnam, a group of young girls found themselves part of a new mentorship program funded by a group called the Pixel Foundation. Emily watched it all from a borrowed cabin along the coast where the sea was louder than the city and time finally moved like breath. She read every message the foundation received, never responding, just watching. She was not the face of it. She did not need to be. Josh had left after the launch, saying he needed to make things right in his own way. They parted without bitterness. That was its own kind of healing. Pixel, ever faithful, sat beside her as she reviewed server logs and coded updates to the protocol. "Do you think they'll ever know?" she asked him softly, running a hand through his fur. "That a scared woman with nothing built something no one could steal?" Pixel blinked, then leapt down, nudging a notebook open with his nose. Inside were sketches, her next ideas, anonymous grants, digital guardianships for abandoned tech projects, a node system that rewarded ethical coding. The future was calling, and this time, she would answer with purpose. Ethereum was never the reward, it was the spark. Real fortune? A second chance to rewrite everything. 6 months passed. The Pixel Foundation had grown into a quiet storm, spreading across continents, cloaked in anonymity. Thousands were helped. Code repositories were shared. Animal shelters, tech schools, small ethical startups, all funded without strings. And yet, someone began asking questions. An independent journalist named Lena Moore, a former cryptography analyst turned writer, published a viral blog post titled, "Who is Behind the Pixel Protocol?" Emily read it from the same weathered desk in the coastal cabin, tea cooling beside her. The article was precise, respectful, but full of curiosity. No accusations, just connections. Lineage of the wallet. Signature style in the open source commits. A timestamp on a code patch that only one person could have authored. Emily Carter. She leaned back, heart heavy but calm. Pixel looked up from the rug, sensing her stillness. He stood, walked to the window, and stared outside. A bird fluttered past. The sky was cloudless, but something was coming. Josh called that night, first time in months. "I saw the post," he said. "You okay?" "I knew this moment would come," Emily replied. "Just not like this." "She's smart," he said. "If she connects it all, you'll be known, maybe even hunted." Emily smiled faintly. "Maybe, or maybe it is time." Pixel meowed softly, then curled beside her on the table. Emily stared out at the ocean again, not as a place to run, but as something endless. "She wants an interview," she whispered. "She believes in the cause, that she'll protect me if I want to stay hidden." Josh paused. "Will you?" Emily did not answer right away, but inside she knew it was time to step into the light. Not as a hero, but as a human. The world was finally ready to meet the woman behind the cat. The studio lights were softer than Emily expected. Not harsh, not interrogating, just curious. She sat across from Lena Moore, the journalist who had cracked the mystery of the Pixel protocol. The room was quiet, no live broadcast, just a conversation being recorded, somewhere between the past and what came next. Pixel sat beside her chair, fur brushed clean, wearing a soft collar with a tiny chip. He watched everything, alert, calm, dignified. Lena leaned forward. "You know, you could have denied it, walked away, stayed a ghost." Emily smiled. "I was one once, but ghosts don't build futures." Lena's recorder blinked. "Then, tell me why. Why not keep Ethereum? Why not hide the protocol? Why give it all away?" Emily paused, her voice even but rich with memory. "Because I know what it feels like to be invisible, to be capable but unheard, to sit in rooms full of ideas and feel your voice stuck behind your ribs. I built this for the woman I used to be, And the girl who's coding alone right now, wondering if she matters. Lena's eyes softened. And the cat? Emily looked down at Pixel, who met her gaze as if on cue. He saved me, she said simply, not just with his timing, but with his patience. He did not try to fix me. He stayed. That was enough. After the interview, the video quietly went live. It was not loud. It did not go viral in minutes, but it moved. Through forums, through foundations, through classrooms. I am Emily Carter, her voice said, and this is the story of how one cat led me back to myself and helped me rewrite the world. In the end, it was never about Ethereum. It was about value, and Emily had finally remembered hers. Would you have opened the box? Would you have kept the Ethereum or changed the world with it? Tell us in the comments and subscribe for the next digital mystery.